racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Pro Truck Showdown.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV for a brand new season of the Pro Truck Showdown. This is the 5th season now of this fantastic Tuesday night racing championship, and it's been competitive from the get-go, but we're thinking here at SimSpeed TV this season is going to be especially competitive because round one here at Watkins Glen has maybe 9 or more drivers who could be in contention for the win tonight. Thanks very much to Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs for your continued support of this series. It's great to have you guys on board once again for Season 5. I'm Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box, as per usual, is Cameron Dance. Cameron, wow, what a fantastic championship this is. We get to do it all over again at one of the best tracks for drafting.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time we've come here, we've seen some unbelievable racing and drafting techniques and everything. So it's going to be an absolute cracker of a night once again here at Watkins Glen.
It certainly is. The drivers are in qualifying at the moment, and we'll be waiting to see who gets themselves on pole for race 1. But a quick refresher here, the championship standings from Season 4. Brenton Hobson, who is responsible for the fantastic intro video you saw in the intro to this broadcast, winning the championship by 50 points from Justin Howe. Daniel Stevens, of course, showing up strongly in 3rd place. The only drivers to get over 1,000 points there. Ryan Jones doing very well to get 4th in the championship at the very end of it, but you can see that the gaps between these drivers in terms of points was very close. We're expecting more of the same in this season.
Absolutely, and the points really do offer themselves to creating a really, really close championship and also rewarding those who can manage to get the results under their belts as well, like we saw with Ibo last season, who put on a really, really dominant show all season long and managed to just come away with some very, very strong results in the end to seal that championship.
Indeed. Let's see if he can go for the dual championship crown this season. We're looking at qualifying at the moment. There is Brenton Hobson with a brand new livery there on that Synergy Sim Racing truck, the number 88. Of course, strutting his stuff out there. And it's the same qualifying format as always, 6 minutes worth of time, but every driver only gets 1 lap to set their time for the run to pole position. Brenton Hobson across the line to set a 2-minute 7.734, the first driver to actually set a time. And Kai Turner coming home 7 tenths behind him. Ben Snell making his return to this championship and putting himself into P2. Oh, hang on a minute. Cooper Webster and Jordan Caruso, the Altus Esports pair, putting themselves into the top 2 right there. So we've got some proper competition here.
Really do. And we saw those Altus Esports drivers in the exhibition races over the past 2 weeks. And they really did manage to show that they've got some pretty good pace under the belts. And these things, so it'll be interesting to see how they're going to go. But certainly some very, very competitive times from both of those drivers. And certainly putting their foot down in the first showing.
Indeed, we got 25 drivers in the server tonight, and Zach Blanche in the number 2 is one of them. Zach Blanche, of course, taking a win at Bark River in the second of the two special events that were held in between seasons just last week. Made a very good case for himself there across the line for him, and it's going to be a 209.6 for Zach Blanche. That moves him up to P18 out of 21 drivers that have set times so far. And it looks to us like the qualifying session is well and truly done, because we've got 4 drivers that haven't set times: Brady Baldwin, Lucas Dickinson, Adam Garwood, and Joshua Walton. But here's how they're going to be lining up then for the first race here tonight. 5 laps around Watkins Glen, and it's Jordan Caruso and Cooper Webster who make it an Altus Esports front row lockout. Brenton Hobson and Glenn Postlethwaite mean that Synergy Sim Racing locks out the second row. Ben Snell and Jaden Russell on row 3 and 5th and 6th. Mitchell McLeod in the number 40 starts 7th alongside Justin Howe, last season's runner-up. Ryan Jones and Daniel Stevens round out the top 10.
Then you're going to go back to Greg Favell and Kai Turner on the following row, and then Damien Westbrook and Aaron Dillon, Dean Elise and Philip Howell, and then Sam Stride, Zach Blanche, Brian Trezise, and Jack Jackson to round out the top 20.
Wilhelm Layton is the last driver to set a time. Brady Baldwin, Lucas Dickinson, Adam Garwood, and Joshua Walton bring up the back of the grid, and we're thinking that Adam Garwood might be the same Adam Garwood who runs a Camaro in the Touring Car Masters series. So really good to see that some real-life racing drivers are making this their series of choice. Of course, we know that Jordan Caruso and Cooper Webster are both active in real-life racing as well. So it really goes to show. I mean, they are sitting up there on the front of the grid after all. They don't have a livery at Altus Esports for the Pro 2 truck. They're just running a basic livery there, but you can tell who they are as the revs rise and the green flag flies. We are racing in the Pro Truck Showdown. It's a great start from Mitchell McLeod. Unfortunately, Cooper Webster has been swamped, and it looks like Glenn Postlethwaite having a run at him up the inside into turn 1 to the outside. Jaden Russell nearly getting turned around on the grass. Big oversteer for Postlethwaite, as now he has to protect from the pursuing pack behind. Ben Snell just managing to slip ahead of Russell and McLeod, who run side by side. Just behind them, Ryan Jones and Justin Howe sorting themselves out as well. It's a very tight pack coming here out of turn 4 at Watkins Glen. Jordan Caruso leads the way down the back stretch, and the draft is on. Cooper Webster gives the bump draft here to Brenton Hobson, and Hobson goes into the lead, coming into the carousel. A sweeping downhill right-hander, and he slips out in front.
He does, and they're still battling at the front of the field, as well as Webster's got his hands full at the moment with Caruso as well, and just in the background, Postlethwaite trying to get around the outside as well of Ben Snell, and Snell still holding the inside, Posy right out onto the dirt, as well as Caruso trying to duel with his teammate in front of him, and it looks like Caruso is possibly going to end up coming away with that one, and Snell getting into it as well.
Indeed, and it's a bit of biff and barge in the midfield. Damien Westbrook gave Ryan Jones a big tap, and now Jones is open to an attack here from Daniel Stevens, but oh my goodness, just behind them, Mr. Aaron Dillon nearly got turned around and got whacked into the side of Gregory Favell. They almost make it 3 wide on the run into the right-hander, and nearly getting turned around there was Sam Stride.
A lot of barge going on further back in the field, and it's absolute chaos as well with how close and compacted everybody is at the moment. Ryan Jones and a few others getting shuffled around and everything, but back at the front of the field, Caruso's not letting Hobson get away, but these top 4 have actually started to form a little bit of a breakaway pattern, and Caruso up the inside of Hobson, but Hobson going to hang it around the outside. Webster's going to throw it up the inside, make it 3 wide on the way down the front straight. Ben Snell's chilling just behind them all, watching to see what's going to unfold. Turn 1 is there still 3 wide. On the way into turn 1, Webster on the inside, Caruso in the middle, and Hobson going to get shuffled out, and so is Caruso, and here comes Ben Snell to take both of them.
3 wide down the front stretch. What a way to start a season here in the Pro Truck Showdown. It looks like Hobbo getting shuffled back now into 4th place as Ben Snell has snuck up the inside of him through turn 2, and he gets the run out of turn 3. So Hobson will now have to sit behind in the draft. The draft is very important here at Watkins Glen. We are running the classic boot layout, so it's a long, flat-out stretch from the S's down to the carousel. And Snell taking advantage of the draft there from Cooper Webster, who goes defensive, allows himself a bit of a bump draft from his teammate to try and stay ahead of Ben. But my goodness, Snell is really pushing it here around the outside. A little bit of a wiggle from Cooper Webster in the middle of the corner allows Snell to get the run around the outside. The draft is going to be particularly important in race 3 tonight. The drivers only have 8.5 laps worth of fuel in these trucks, and race 3 is 9 laps long, so they're going to have to do a bit of fuel saving in the draft, but they're not going to be thinking about that now as the Altus pair continue to fight their way with the 141 of Ben Snell. And speaking of drivers behind them, Jaden Russell is starting to jet up to the back of these guys to try and help out his teammate Brenton Hobson.
Yeah, Postle's not too far behind him as well, so it's about to be Altus Esports versus Synergy Sim Racing between these three, and then Ben Snell obviously being the little man to get me amongst the big guys.
Indeed, Snell sneaking up the inside again of Jordan Caruso, who goes wide to give him some room. Caruso and Webster, from what we've seen of them in the special event at Alton Park, race very cleanly but very aggressively. Caruso continuing to hold it around the outside of Ben Snell, manages to slip ahead into the final turn, and now Webster has the run here. Oh goodness, big whack to the side of Ben Snell as they come out of the final turn to start lap 3 of 5. Caruso immediately to the inside, assisting his teammate with the draft. And everyone is laid on the brakes as they possibly dare, as now Glen Postlethwaite is right there with them as well. He's caught up to Jaden Russell and Brenton Hobson. It could be a 3-pronged synergy assault on this top 5.
Yeah, it certainly could absolutely be that way, and it's looking like it's going to be that way as well with how everybody's starting to catch up, and also remembering that if these guys start to fight a little bit harder, Westbrook, Stevens, and Howe, and also McLeod aren't a million miles away, so we could see this quickly turn into what could be a possible 10-car train for the race lead.
Yeah, 3 wide between Stevens, McLeod, and Howe coming into the carousel as a challenge for the lead from Ben Snell. He manages to get it done on Cooper Webster. Stevens, meanwhile, just manages to stay ahead for the time being from Mitchell McLeod, but looks like Mitch just got the run out of carousel. Stevens, though, still with the inside, coming into the ankle of the boot here at Watkins Glen. This is a cambered turn. It means you can hold it round the outside, as you just see McLeod doing there. And oh goodness, Aaron Dillon taking a little bit too much on the exit of that corner in the background and smashing his way into the wall.
Yeah, not what you want to be doing around here, especially with how much that straight line speed is going to be important. But Hobson looking up the inside of Webster on the way down towards the end of the turn. He might just be able to do it, but Webster's going to have a slight better advantage on the exit of the corner. Posey and Russell are right there behind, waiting to attack and just waiting to see what everybody else is going to be doing.
They'll be coming up to the penultimate lap pretty soon, and Ben Snell has a couple of truck lengths gap over Jordan Caruso. Cooper Webster is holding up these guys at the moment, and he's been pushed a little wide by Brenton Hobson. Off into the grass goes the Altus driver, and Hobbo just ahead at the entry to the final turn, but Webster fighting to stay ahead. Well, he's a bit of a sitting duck now. Jaden Russell's going to have to pick his line properly here. He's probably going to stay there behind his teammate of Brenton Hobson and give himself a slight bump draft coming into turn 1. Hobbo flings it in, but he's gone a bit too wide. Out into the runoff area goes last season's champion, and that allows Jaden Russell by. Hobbo just slips back onto the track and avoids collecting him.
Oh, nearly contact between the two teammates. Posey getting a little bit wide now. Hobson's going to end up getting balked here. And here comes Westbrook to get into the party, as well as McLeod and Howell. And here we go. It's about to become a 10-car fight for the race lead here.
This is fantastic racing, as it looks like Snell just managing to keep Jordan Caruso behind up at the front as the pack continues to fight. Damian Westbrook has managed to force his way past Brenton Hobson at the carousel, and now he's going to try and have a run at Postlethwaite if he can. Hobson goes all the way off the track, and Mitchell McLeod has to back out of it. Hobbo shoves it up the inside of Westbrook, gives him a bump, sends him wide, and tries his best to get on by for this spot. They're fighting for 6th place here. Mitchell McLeod at the moment is just outside the spot that will get pole position for race 2. There's going to be a top 7 invert for the race 2 grid. Currently, it looks like Brenton Hobson is the one who's going to be starting on pole, but Mitchell McLeod is going to want it.
Yeah, he certainly is going to want it, but so is everybody else as well. It's going to be up the inside as Westbrook, a little bit of a hip check on Hobson. That's going to allow McLeod to slip on it by and move in front to hold the position. So Hobson going to have to look to the outside on the way out of the boot and nearly going to be able to hold it. 2 wheels in the dirt, nearly in the barrier, but is going to end up managing to just get away with that one. But McLeod not having any of it, using a little bit of bodywork to his advantage, and Hobson very wide and off the road.
Yep, and clatters Daniel Stevens on the way back onto the track. Hobbo manages to hold on to it, but he's lost a bunch of momentum, and Aaron Dillon is going to get him into turn 1. Hobbo tries to squeeze him, but he's already alongside. It is white flag now for Ben Snell and Jordan Caruso. It looks like the top 2 are safe from an attack from behind, but Brenton Hobson, after starting incredibly well here, starting 3rd, has been shuffled outside the top 10. He has been put in the wars in this first race of the night. But now we'll have to draw our attention towards the top 2 here. There's Jordan Caruso looking from the front at Ben Snell. A big draft there for the Altus Esports driver. Caruso, of course, finishing on the podium last V8 Scops round at Road Atlanta. He'll want to continue that good run of podiums as he slips by Snell into the carousel. Bit of a bump from behind for the 1-4-1. And Snell is not going to let this get away from him. Tries to sneak round the outside, widen the turn into the ankle of the boot. This downhill, descending left-hander. But it looks like Caruso has got him covered for the time being as, oh no, that's Damian Westbrook into the wall, back onto the circuit in a very awkward spot. Looks like everyone's managed to avoid getting into him. But now the top 4 are truly together. Ben Snell is the meat in an Altus Esports sandwich, with Jaden Russell sitting in 4th, looking to try and take advantage if any of these guys come together. Defensive line from Jordan Caruso as Ben Snell tries round the outside. He doesn't get it done, though. Now he's opened himself to an attack from Cooper Webster. Webster slips to the inside, and Snell goes very deep into the left-hander, leaves the lane open on the inside for Mr. Webster to have a go into the penultimate turn. Let's see how this works out between them. It looks like the race win is secured for Jordan Caruso, but the podium is still up for grabs. One more turn to go for Jordan Caruso, and he's going to exit the final turn to take the first win of the night here in the Pro Truck Showdown. First win of Season 5 going to Altus Esports, and Ben Snell is going to just hold on there from Cooper Webster for 2nd. Russell manages to maintain 4th place. Great finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really great finish. And what a way to start off the season with some unbelievably close racing for that lead and for that top 5 as well. So if this is anything to go by, this season is going to be an absolute cracker.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see what the rest of the night brings. Caruso, Snell, and Webster, your top 3, covered by 0.4 of a second. Jaden Russell and Glen Postlethwaite completing the top 5 for Synergy Sim Racing. Mitchell McLeod comes home in 6th. Justin Howell finishes 7th, which means he's going to start on pole for race 2. Daniel Stevens in 8th. Brenton Hobson able to make his way back up into 9th, but he'll certainly be wanting more out of that 5-lapper as Aaron Dillon rounds out the top 10.
And you go over the page, and you're going to have Favel, Stride, Garwood, Blanche, Elise, Jackson, Trezise, Westbrook, Jones, and Leighton to round out the top 20. And then your final few finishes are going to end up being Kai Turner and Philip Howe to round out the field.
Unfortunately, 2 laps down for Turner and Howe, and Jones lost a ton of positions there. Remember, he started 9th but finished in 19th. He was involved in quite a bit of the biff and barge that was going on in the midfield there. Well, we're waiting for the timer to run out as our last couple of finishers cross the line. The last truck across the line is going to be Wilhelm Leighton, just getting his front bumper across the line there. So that confirms all of the finishers. And now we can move on into race 2. And with the top 7 invert, it is going to be Justin Howe and Mitchell McLeod on the front row, with Glen Postlethwaite and Jaden Russell starting 3rd and 4th. And then it's going to be Webster, Snell, and Caruso, your top 7, with Stevens, Hobson, and Dillon starting where they finished in race 1, rounding out the top 10. It's a very short gridding time here, but they've got a couple of extra laps to deal with here. It's 7 laps for race 2, which hopefully, Cam, means we're going to be getting even more action.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be quite the race as well. No invert for the final race as well. So it's going to be all for keeps in terms of where you're going to end up finishing in race 2 and for points as well. So yeah, not quite going to be able to sandbag as much as you hope, but at the same time, you're still going to want to try and put yourself in a very, very nice position.
Indeed. The timer runs out and the revs rise once again. We have got a full complement of Lucas Oil Off-Road Pro 2 trucks on the starting grid at Watkins Glen, and they immediately leave it. It's an all right start for Justin Howe, but again, Cooper Webster doesn't seem to have gotten the best getaway from the grid. He's managed to keep his teammate Jordan Caruso behind, but Ben Snell sweeping around the outside into turn 1. He can't maintain the position, and Webster gets back by him. It's side by side between Postlethwaite and McLeod for second as they come into turn 2. Postlethwaite wins that little battle. Very wide exit for Cooper Webster, trying to keep Ben Snell behind, and Snell is going to get swamped here. He just slots in ahead of McLeod and Stevens, and McLeod's going to make it 3 wide here down the back stretch. Snell's just giving him enough room there, getting squeezed by Daniel Stevens and Aaron Dillon, with McLeod getting off the circuit on the run towards the bus stop chicane that we are not using on this layout. Postlethwaite managing to get ahead there of Mr. Howe for the race lead. This is great racing on the first lap already, as all the trucks have stayed well and truly together, but they've broken into 2 separate packs. Gregory Favell is on the back of this pack as, oh goodness me, Postlethwaite forcing Howe into the wall on the outside. It looks like Justin Howe getting absolutely swamped by everyone in that top 6. And oh goodness, there's contact between Howe and McLeod, and that is going to ruin the momentum of those guys.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's really bunched up that pack now to really include pretty much the entire nearly top 15 as well in that battle. So everybody's all scrapping for position, trying to find the way through as Caruso off the road and having to scrap. They're going to be 4 wide on the way out of the boot. They were all managing to make contact with each other, but there was somehow all come out of it except for Aaron Dillon.
Yeah, Aaron Dillon getting turned around there on the entry into the left-hander. He gets back onto the circuit. He's still running. That's good, but he's lost a ton of positions as there's further contact between McLeod and Snell. Snell got forced wide massively through the penultimate corner. Has to give up the position to Gregory Favell. All right, lap 1 complete. I'm almost out of breath. It's a Synergy Sim Racing 1-2 up at the front with Glen Postlethwaite and Jaden Russell leading the way. Cooper Webster getting the run here on Justin Howe and Mitchell McLeod as Jordan Caruso sticks his nose in and whacks Justin Howe through turn 1, manages to get his way past him.
What a send by Caruso out of absolutely nowhere to just send it up the inside of Justin Howe. Howie copying a little bit of a whack on the way by, but nevertheless, they're all still pointing in the right direction, and Howie's going to come back at them eventually once the draft is going to be kicking in, and he's got Daniel Stevens as well as Hobson and Snell not too far behind as well, so they're going to be trying to move their way forward, but Caruso is going to look to possibly try and make a move on Cooper Webster here, using a little bit of the bumper to try and bump draft his teammate and push him up towards the likes of Mitchell McLeod and Jane Russell, and that seems to have helped a little bit. It's now all over the tail of Mitchell McLeod.
Indeed, that is a big pack for third on back as the synergy pair of Russell and Postlethwaite managed to gap them at the end of lap 1. They'll be wanting to maintain that. So, the Altus pair looking to try and make their way forward. Webster sending it on McLeod. Mitch goes incredibly wide, actually. He's gone a little bit too deep into that turn, which has made it 3 wide between himself, Caruso, and Justin Howe. Bit of a whack between those guys, but they've sorted themselves out again. These trucks can certainly take a beating. Defensive line from Cooper Webster to try and protect from Mitchell McLeod. Caruso stays wide to let Justin Howe back through. This is going to be a race where a ton of positions are swapped around. A tiny tap for Justin Howe on Mitchell McLeod as we focus a bit further back. Ryan Jones trying to make his way up here, and he's not having the best time of it. He's been involved in quite a few scraps there with the likes of Brian Trezise and Damian Westbrook. Just ahead of them, Adam Garwood has gone very wide just over the curb in the penultimate turn. He's trying his best to keep Dean Alessi behind in the number 16. And it looks like he's just managed to do it, but he's going to have to look over his shoulder here because Alessi is in the draft. Garwood stays in the middle of the road, and Alessi is given the box seat into the turn 1 braking zone. He cannot take advantage, though, as Trezise goes incredibly wide out of turn 1, and that might just allow Jones on through. Looks like he has managed to get that position done. Meanwhile, looks like Cooper Webster is continuing to get himself up to the front of the field as we ride on board with Justin Howe. Jordan Caruso looking at Justin Howe. Just getting a whisper of a draft there from Mitchell McLeod as Howe to the inside and trying his best to keep the position as Caruso getting very leery with him on the entry into the carousel. It looks like the top two have lost their advantage because Cooper Webster is right there with them.
And McLeod's almost being the little bit of a helper to those behind as well, since he's got a little bit of a gap to Webster and providing a bit of draft to those behind, as Howe's going to continue to fight with Caruso, and there's kind of between Snell and Hobson further back as well. They're just going to get away with that one in the end, and Stevens is going to try and sneak up the inside of these guys as well.
Well, it looks like he hasn't been able to get the advantage on the turn exit. He's got to try and keep Gregory Favell behind him. As for the lead, Jaden Russell and Glen Postlethwaite side by side to try and stymie the run of Cooper Webster. This is fantastic racing here up at the front of the field. Jordan Caruso is right in it as well. Just behind Justin Howe. Postlethwaite maintaining the lead as they come into the final couple of corners of the lap. We are past half race distance now. 3.5 laps completed. Soon to be 3 laps completed. Let's just see then how they can keep themselves going for the rest of this 7-lap race. Postlethwaite leads across the line again. Russell, though, with Webster on his bumper. Webster goes for a look here at turn 1 on the brakes for both of them. And Webster, using all of the curb on the inside of the corner, tries to get the advantage. And extending the exit there was Glen Postlethwaite to try and keep him ahead. But there goes Cooper Webster, just past Jaden Russell, into second place.
Yeah, absolutely. A very, very nice move there. Strine Favell fighting just further back behind these guys as well. So it's still going on further down in the field, but it's all on at the front of the field at the moment is how trying to close that gap down with a bit of draft on Caruso. Caruso is going to pull it to the outside on Mitchell McLeod. They're going to be side by side on the way into the carousel, and it's going to be nearly 3 wide, no. 2 rows of deep, and that's going to be wide as Postlethwaite, wide as Webster, and that's going to allow Howe and also Caruso to slip on by up the inside of Mitchell McLeod as Caruso. Now here comes Postlethwaite back at them all.
Postlethwaite and Webster came together, and as their wheels locked together, they both went to the outside. That allowed Jaden Russell through into P1, Jordan Caruso up into P2, but now the former first and third runners, Postlethwaite and Webster, are mired back in this pack. And Postlethwaite trying to get the run on McLeod, but he can't pull to the right-hand side because Justin Howe is sitting there. There goes Webster up the inside of Russell, trying to go for the race lead, but Russell on the outside gets a little bit better traction on the exit of the corner. And he's going to get squeezed a little bit there, is Jordan Caruso, but manages to keep it on the circuit. All of these drivers together here in the top 8 as there's contact between McLeod and Howe just behind. They managed to keep their trucks straight and narrow. Goodness me, I barely got enough time to catch my breath here as Daniel Stevens tries around the outside of Ben Snell, but Snell shoves him out of the way to try and regain that position, and he does. The weave is on in the top 5. Jaden Russell defensive here versus Jordan Caruso as they start lap 5.
Yeah, and here comes Postlethwaite as well up the inside of Webster and forces him out
Oh.
wide. Does Postlethwaite. So Postlethwaite's going to get that position, or is he? Because he's going to end up fighting. But at the front, Caruso's trying to hang it around the outside of Jaden Russell. They're going to be side by side on the way up. Yes, there's no contact made, and that is Draziz up and over.
Oh, goodness me. The number 77, our first proper retirement, I think, from this race. And the battle continues up the front. The top four well and truly together. It looks to me like Brian Traziz had big contact made with him from Jake Jackson, which sent him up and over. As look at the racing here through the carousel. Glen Postlethwaite forced wide there, as now Mitchell McLeod is battling for first position with Jaden Russell. Up goes Caruso, up the inside of both McLeod and Howe. And Howe getting forced up onto two wheels thanks to contact with Postlethwaite. This is an absolute crush that we're seeing in the midst of the battle for the top seven. Howe goes very deep, forces Webster wide. Webster losing 3 positions there to Hobson, Snell and Stevens, who are running side by side. And now into the bump draft of Snell will go Cooper Webster. Snell going defensive, but he's gone contact from behind from Stevens, and that sent them all into Justin Howe and Mitchell McLeod. Stevens shuffled to the back of the pack. McLeod trying to get back onto the circuit. It's contact between McLeod, Howe, and Webster. Howe and McLeod cannot keep out of each other.
Yeah, they certainly can't. It's all been going off in that last corner or so between all of those just inside the top 10 and just outside the top 5. It's really absolute melee at the moment between all of them. Hobson has got the short end of the stick at the moment. Is struggling to try and get his way back to the front of the field. Tried around the outside of Stevens there, but couldn't make it work in the end. So he's going to have to sit station behind them for another lap once again. But it's certainly on at the front of the field as Caruso once again sizing up Jaden Russell for another attack down at the back straight, down towards the carousel. McLeod just in there as well and just within draft range, so he's going to try and make something happen as well. But with all that battling that's been going on, Favell, Stride, Howie and the rest have all managed to keep on top of these guys.
Yeah, they have. They're continuing to latch onto the back of this draft train. Everyone's a little bit more spaced out in the top 5 after that mayhem on the previous lap. Caruso bump drafting Jaden Russell down the back stretch as we look at Favell and Stride ever so briefly. To the outside goes Jordan Caruso, but cannot get past Jaden Russell again. So Mitchell McLeod may have a run in here. Glen Postlethwaite just waiting behind as well as Justin Howe loses out there to the number 76 of Gregory Favell. Coming into the boot section of the lap, Sam Stride is holding station very well at the front of that particular pack. Jaden Russell has been doing very well here to keep Jordan Caruso behind. I think Caruso is just sizing up an opportunity. He doesn't want to get by too early because he'll just run the risk of Jaden Russell getting back by him. For third place, though, it looks like Glen Postlethwaite and Mitchell McLeod side by side in the braking zone, and Posy going to try and keep it as narrow as he can. Mitchell McLeod managing to hold it for that third position. We look a bit further back, and there is Mr. Garwood along with Damian Westbrook, Ryan Jones and Aaron Dillon all battling together here as contact between Dillon and Jones. Aaron Dillon sent massively into the tyre barriers and gets spun around.
And his night's gone from bad to worse for Dillon, unfortunately, and not really the way that he will have been hoping this night to have gone, nor for Jones either, who's been in the wars all night as well. But back to the front of the field, and that top 2 hasn't changed in order across the line, but the white flag is out. Caruso sends it up the inside. Posy with a huge send up the inside. McLeod's going to take that off Posy, and here comes Webster as well as Howe, and Russell's going to take that position back. McLeod's going to fire it up the inside of Caruso. The 2 abreast just behind between Snell, Webster, and Postlethwaite all in this. It's anybody's guess as to who's going to come out of the carousel at the front of this field.
My God, Glenn. Goodness, he must have had a lot of faith in his brakes or completely missed his braking point. Mitchell McLeod is all on his lonesome there in the draft train. The top 4. Oh no! Take it easy, guys. Mitchell McLeod, what a save there to keep it going straight. Ben Snell just making quarter contact with him. Russell continues to hold on to the lead coming through the carousel. And now Webster is going to try and get past Mitchell McLeod here, but the outside line at this particular corner doesn't exactly have the advantage. McLeod bumps Webster wide, so that means he's going to lose yet another position there to Snell and then to Postlethwaite. Jaden Russell is just holding on here to the lead from Jordan Caruso. Mitchell McLeod runs a little bit wide. Ben Snell sees an opportunity up the inside, but gets a little crossed up, has to go across the inside of the corner to keep it going. And Glenn Postlethwaite spinning. Oh, this has been a wild final lap for Glenn Postlethwaite. He loses 1, 2, 3, 4 positions there. Now right on the back of that train. What a shame for him as the crush goes on for third on back. Goodness me, Ben Snell has been trying his best to keep it there versus Mitchell McLeod. They've got a bit of lap traffic to deal with here up at the front, right at the very end. Wilhelm Leighton on lap 6 of 7 still. He's going to be holding up Jaden Russell in these final couple of corners. Let's see if he runs wide. Russell is going to hold on to this, perhaps, but Caruso sees an opportunity to try and go up the inside. Leighton is making this incredibly hard for our top two, and I don't think Caruso is going to be very happy with that, the lap car getting involved. Jaden Russell is going to cross the line in P1, with Jordan Caruso coming home in second, Mitchell McLeod completing the podium.
What an unbelievable finish in some drag races to the line as well for those final few spots inside the top 10. But you could have not made that up at all, that race. That was just absolutely insane.
Goodness me. Oh, God. I'm really happy for the opportunity to catch my breath after that one, because we got a break coming up just after we go through these race results. At the end of the line, it was 9/10 between Russell and Caruso, with McLeod coming home 1.8 back. Ben Snell just holding off Cooper Webster there for 4th place, with Sam Stride finishing in 6th. Brenton Hobson finishing in 7th. This night has not gone the way the reigning champion would have wanted. Gregory Favell, Daniel Stevens and Justin Howe rounding out the top 10. And Howe, I think, will be unhappy with that one.
Yeah, I'd say probably it will be a little bit disappointed, but Postlethwaite coming home in 11th after what was originally on the leading up to the slap, a pretty good finishing position, and in the end, it all turned to custard for him. And then you got Zach Blanche in 12th. Lacey comes home 13th, Westbrook 14th, Jones finishes with a top 15, and Carlwood, Jake Jackson, Philip Howell, Kai Turner, and Aaron Dillon round out the top 20, and then your final two cars finishing in the end, Brian Trezise and Willem Leighton 1 lap down.
Yeah, Trezise was able to get back out there in the end. Well, it's time for a quick break here on SimSpeed TV. We got the warm-up session coming up, and then the final 9-lap race where fuel is going to be an issue. We're going to be seeing drivers lifting and coasting in the draft down the back straight. Who is going to take top honours in the final race of the Pro Truck Showdown presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs? We'll find out very shortly.
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognize brake markers, you'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid, you'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise, and you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS quick reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire Global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got really outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown here on SimSpeed TV, presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs. What a night we have had so far. That's some of the most frenetic racing I've seen in my time commentating for SimSpeed, and I can't wait to see how race 3 gets going. The 9-lapper coming up very shortly. I'm Reese Gardner, Cameron Dance alongside me, and Cam, at the moment, it looks like Jordan Caruso is leading the round standings with a first and a second so far. So if he wants to take home the round win, all he's got to do, I think, is finish in the top 3.
Yeah, he certainly does at this point, certainly making his mark on the series with a very, very nice start to the season so far with a race win and a podium and even pole as well in qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in race 3. And based on what we've seen in the past 2 races, it's going to be absolutely crazy to see what's going to happen, and who knows what we're going to see.
Yeah, who knows indeed. And I mean, that those last couple of laps for the top 7, top 8 were just immense. I mean, I'm thinking that my sympathies really lie with Brenton Hobson here, because he qualified well, getting up into 3rd place on the starting grid for race 1, but he only has a 9th and a 7th to show for it so far. So I think if Hobbo wants to return to that championship glory, he's going to have to kick things up a notch in race 3.
Yeah, he certainly will need to kick it up a notch in this 3rd race. Does start 7th, so not too bad of a starting position, but still a lot of work to do. And with it being a 9-lap race, he's got plenty of time to make his way forward. But with how crazy it's been in the first 2 races, battling for those top 10 spots, he's really going to need to hustle and get his way to that front of that field so he doesn't get trapped behind with the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for his debut, Adam Garwood has really made a good name for himself. We didn't quite highlight it at the time, but I find it incredible that he managed to start in 24th for race 1, Adam Garwood, and make his way up into 13th at the end. That's a really good position gain for him. Yes, he did fall back in race 2, but at the same time, he's certainly shown himself to be able to race with the guys in the midfield here in the Pro Truck Showdown. Looks like the warm-up session is over and we can get onto the grid for race 3. Jaden Russell and Jordan Caruso, our top 2 from the previous race, will start on the front row, with McLeod and Snell in 3rd and 4th. Cooper Webster starts from 5th alongside Sam Stride. Starting in 7th place is going to be Brenton Hobson alongside Gregory Favell, with Daniel Stevens and Justin Howe rounding out the top 10.
And you're going to have it possibly in Zach Blanche on row 6 and 11th and 12th. 13th and 14th will be Dean Leasy and Damien Westbrook. Jones going to round out the top 15 with Garwood, Jackson, Howe, Turner, Traziz, Dylan, Leighton, and the rest to round out your field.
Indeed, looks like Brady Baldwin, Lucas Dickinson and Joshua Walton have not taken to the start for any of these races. It's a shame that we won't be seeing them, but we've got a race on our hands here as the revs rise for race 3 of the Pro Truck Showdown, round 1, season 5 at Watkins Glen, and Jaden Russell gets an alright start there, immediately covers off Jordan Caruso, but Caruso is going to go for it round the outside into turn 1. Bit early on the brakes there was Jaden Russell, and Caruso just sweeps around the outside to take the lead. Mitchell McLeod with the enemies at the gate behind. He's got Cooper Webster, Ben Snell and Brenton Hobson all looking for glory there behind him. And now they're going to have to think about the fuel save. The trucks only have 8.5 laps worth of fuel as, Ryan Jones off the circuit, goodness me, in his very tight battle there with Adam Garwood. And Garwood getting off the throttle a little bit there. And goodness me, just behind them, Brian Traziz into the wall again.
Yeah, certainly a lot of dramas going on back there, and there's been contact, and Trezise has unfortunately come off second best in what's not been a very, very great start to this race for him at all, and I'd say that's possibly going to be a retirement as well in the end. But at the front of the field, they're side by side for the race leader, Caruso and Russell. Webster's in there, McLeod's in there as well. Ben Snell is just looming in behind as well as Hobson.
Indeed, and looks like Jaden Russell is putting himself in contention for the round win here as well. Currently leading, won the previous race, fourth in race one. So if he can somehow maintain that position and Caruso gets shuffled back, then he would certainly be in the running for the round win. But Webster pushes his teammate and gets up the inside for another run at the lead. Meanwhile, Sam Stride just behind there with Glen Postlethwaite, who we saw make that massive send into turn one on the last lap in the previous race. And Stridey, there's been a competitor in the Pro Truck Showdown from its outset. He's trying his best to keep himself in that particular mode of competition, as the top three have started to break away here at the end of the first lap of 9. But they are going to be lifting off a bit down the straight, and you certainly don't want to be the first truck in the train, as down into turn 1, there goes Jordan Caruso with a bit of assistance from Cooper Webster, gets into the race lead coming into turn 1.
Yeah, very, very nice, clean move from Caruso up the inside to take the race lead, and I'm not sure if you want to be the one at the front of the field, especially with those fuel limitations that are in place at the moment, and the fact that they're going to have to do a little bit of fuel saving. But we'll see what's going to happen as this race progresses, as now Webster's going to think about possibly coming by these three. They're all going to sit station in a train, and Webster pulls out to the outside, and so does Russell. Webster slots in behind McLeod's closing, and so does Hobson, but no move going to be happening in the end for Webster, and Russell's still going to continue to press around at the outside of Caruso, but it's not quite going to pay off in the end, and he's going to end up side by side with Cooper Webster in out of the corner, but takes that position straight off him.
And maintains the inside through the left-hander, gets the lead back from Jordan Caruso, but Caruso still alongside coming into the braking zone as Brenton Hobson gets up the inside of Mitch McLeod, who goes very deep into the right-hander. So Hobson now up into 4th place, and he would very much like to stay there after the night he has had so far. But the top 3 are starting to really gap the rest of the field here. Side by side, Jordan Caruso and Jaden Russell. Glen Postlethwaite sneaking up the inside of Ben Snell, but cannot take advantage. Snell with the traction on the exit of the corner, and it looks like Russell trying his best desperately to hold on to a position in the top 3 here. He manages to place himself ahead of Cooper Webster, and the gap for the top 3 has been eliminated.
Yeah, it certainly has been eliminated entirely, and there's no real gap back to anyone, more or less. It's pretty much single car or less between everybody inside that top 10, and Westbrook's not too far away from latching on to that top 10 train as well.
Yeah, not far off at all. The trucks are all in a line here coming down the front stretch as Glen Postlethwaite goes for the send there on Ben Snell, gets by into turn 1. He's got Gregory Favell for very close company too. But looks like Postlethwaite's going to have to really take advantage of the draft here on McLeod up the hill and down the back straight. Caruso still holds on to the lead here as they come onto the back stretch here at Watkins Glen. And Jaden Russell elects to go for the move alongside, but there is the bump draft for Caruso. This is where it really helps to have a teammate in contention. Russell will be hoping that Hobson can catch up to them and make life a bit harder here for the Altus duo.
Yeah, we'll certainly be hoping to try and get a little bit of assistance, and Hobson not too far away as well from getting to the back of these guys, so we're going to end up seeing a 2x2 battle between the USSR and Altus Esports drivers to see who's going to end up taking out the final race of the night here.
Well, Altus on the inside, Russell going wide through the right-hander. That allows Cooper Webster up into second, maybe for the briefest of moments, because Russell gets on the throttle a little bit better and gives him a little couple of clatters to the side as Webster now with the inside line just moves ahead of his teammate, and I think that's a tactical let-by there for Jordan Caruso. This will give him the opportunity to draft as well, but he wouldn't have wanted Jaden Russell to slip by him there. Oh, well, that's going to fix it. A little bit of quarter contactors. Oh, just behind them, it looks like Sam Stride has been turned around massively into the left-hander. He's managed to get himself into the wall. He is going to rejoin, though.
Yeah, looks like that truck is still at least in one piece and at least on four wheels as well. So not too much of a drama there. And just turned around by, I think that was Justin Howell as well on the way outside of the boot. So we'll see what's going to happen here on the Virtual Racing School replay. And yeah, just a little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact, unfortunately. Stride had to wait for everybody to go on by and drop to the end of the field.
It's a big shame for the number 42, but looks like it's an Altus 1-2 at the moment. But Brenton Hobson has caught up, and he's just gotten past his teammate Jaden Russell. So now it is Altus, and Synergy, your top four, with Mitchell McLeod putting his Torque Inc. machine there in 5th place. He's got Glen Postlethwaite, the 3rd Synergy truck, for very close company, though. Now, here is where the Altus duo are going to start working together. Big bump draft for Jordan Caruso on Cooper Webster, and a little bit of a lift at the end of the straight. There we go. Just let Cooper Webster go 4th, and they'll be monitoring their fuel numbers quite a bit here. These guys, they don't want to run out of fuel on the last lap. That would be a horrible way for the race to end, especially after competing so well up the front for so long in this 3rd race of the night. Ben Snell trying there on Glen Postlethwaite. He almost had a look around the outside, but couldn't quite get alongside. Ryan Jones, meanwhile, who has been really in the wars here, gets past MFR's Kai Turner. And these guys have all made their way up from where they finished in the previous race. Jones up to 14th and Kai Turner up to 15th. They need to be careful, though, because it's in the midfield where some of the biggest accidents can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when it's all compacted as well, like it is in the midfield. So you really do have to be a little bit careful of what's going on around you and make sure that you're not making any mistakes and ending up in any drama that may have you drop to the back of the field or even end up with a DNF, especially in these sort of close races. But currently it's very much a single file affair with those top 3 trying to break away a little bit, but just can't quite manage to do it at the moment, as Hobson's possibly going to try and set up a move here on Caruso. Caruso going to go defensive on the way down towards turn 1. Hobson goes to the outside, tries to sweep it around the outside, but just can't quite get the run out of the corner that he would have hoped.
It's a lovely turn 1 at Watkins Glen. Nice and banked. You're able to run side by side through there very well. What happened here on the VRS replay? Aaron Dillon getting massively crossed up in a big lock-up there into the braking zone for the penultimate turn. He's decided to stop it and go back to the garage. He's had enough for tonight. He's had a bit of a rough night, has Aaron Dillon. Side by side for the lead. Webster and Caruso, with Hobbo really getting his nose in there. Almost turned both of those trucks around, but Caruso back to the race lead once again, and Hobbo is now going to drag 2 of his teammates up into this top 5 fight, because Mitchell McLeod has had to yield that position to Glen Postlethwaite off camera. So now it is a battle of the teams, Altus versus Synergy, and we love a good team battle here at SimSpeed.
Yeah, we certainly do, especially between 2 big teams in the Oz and Z community, SSR versus Altus. We certainly have seen them all throughout various different series and broadcasts, and they certainly make a name for themselves. Very, very well known, and it's certainly continuing here tonight between these 5 of them at the moment, as it's certainly on between Postlethwaite, Russell, Hobson, Webster, and Caruso.
Indeed. I mean, I am marveling at how clean they've managed to keep it. Of course, it makes sense with the fuel being the way it is. You don't want to race too hard. You don't want to lose the draft on the truck in front of you, because that's a fuel-saving opportunity that could be gone if you're not careful. So coming up towards the end of lap 5, they will only have 4 laps to go at Watkins Glen. And single file out of the final corner. Jaden Russell has slightly dropped off the back of Brenton Hobson, who himself has dropped off the back of Webster and Caruso. There was a lift on the way into the braking zone from Cooper Webster. He saved a little bit of extra fuel himself as, oh, goodness me, Zach Blanche locking up the rears there into turn one as Ryan Jones tries to shake off Dean Alessi and Kai Turner. He's got a bit of a gap to work with, and he can draft up to the back of Daniel Stevens and company just up ahead. Meanwhile, on board with Gregory Favell, he is one of the trucks at the back of this train. He's got Justin Howe behind and Mitchell McLeod up in front. Ben Snell, you see, over on driver's left there, just holding on to that line. Postlethwaite and Russell together, as well as it's side by side between the Altus boys, Webster and Caruso. Brenton Hobson is really making himself known here, finally making good on the promises he made in qualifying here at the end of the night. And the Altus trucks, it looks like, have let him into their little group here at the top of the field. Hobson's going to have to be careful not to be forced too wide. Webster himself has gone a bit too deep. Jaden Russell's going to get in up the inside of Brenton Hobson here. And the top four back together with Glen Postlethwaite in hot pursuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And hot pursuit, and Caruso is going to look to the inside of his teammate in Cooper Webster and going to not quite get the run off the corner. And Hobson's going to get a very, very nice run off the corner. He's going to look to the inside of Caruso as they head to the end of the boot section, and Caruso might get shuffled out a little bit here, but he's going to press on around at the outside and try and hold on, but the banking of the following turn isn't really going to lend itself to helping him hold it around the outside and get shuffled out onto the grass. Runs a little bit wide, gets back on, no real dramas there, but it's going to slot in behind Jane Russell and end up in an SSR sandwich.
Indeed, back to fourth now for Jordan Caruso, which means Cooper Webster is alone and without help in the lead as they start lap 7, 3 to go at Watkins Glen. Caruso manages to glide up the inside of Jaden Russell and try and get third place back, but Russell with a slightly better exit round the outside. Caruso won't be too fussed about that. He's going to have a good draft down the back stretch. He's going to have to be careful of Glen Postlethwaite, though, and they're going to have to keep an eye out for the likes of Snell, McLeod, Favell, and Howe, all regular series veterans, these guys. The duo of Webster and Caruso are the new boys in the Pro Truck Showdown. And it looks like there goes Brenton Hobson up the inside of Cooper Webster to take the race lead. And it was a tactical lift from Webster there. He's still got some fuel to save.
He still has got some fuel to save by the looks of it, and because there's no clutch, it's a lot harder to save fuel in these things as well, with the fact that you really got to only manage it through the throttle amount that you use. So trying to use his head here to try and save a little bit of fuel in the hopes that he's going to be able to at least finish this race somewhere and be able to stand a chance later on. As contact between himself and Russell on the exit of the toe of the boot, and that's going to allow Postlethwaite to try and get in on this, and it's also built a little bit of a gap to those top two of Webster and Hobson.
It has indeed, but Caruso's managed to get his way back up into third here. He's got to nail the throttle, and he does, but not without a bit more contact with Jaden Russell. So there we go. It's now an Altus 2-3 with our reigning champion Brenton Hobson leading the way. Oh, that is a bit of a problem there for Zach Blanche. Ryan Jones has to go wide to let the number 2 back onto the circuit, and that's a big drift there from Zach Blanche. It's going to give a slight advantage to Ryan Jones coming into the penultimate corner, and with a couple of whacks, by goes the number 11, and he'll try and stay ahead there into the final turn. But now coming on to lap 8, we have got, goodness me, how many trucks is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the top 9 all together here in one big pack as Postlethwaite gets up the inside of Russell. Jaden goes wide to let his teammate go. And they have lost a slight bit of momentum there versus the two Altus trucks and Brenton Hobson side by side between McLeod and Howe, with Gregory Favell observing and then trying to get his nose into this battle. I am loving this racing at the moment, and since it's the penultimate lap, They are really going to turn up the wick here. Have a look at the draft from the two Altus trucks. Caruso jets on by Cooper Webster and has a run at Brenton Hobson around the outside into the carousel.
He tries around the outside, but is it going to work? We'll find out on the exit of the corner. Hobson with a slight bit of extra momentum is going to help him, and he'll keep that position off at Caruso for the time being. Webster just sitting in behind his teammate, waiting to see what he's going to do. You know, they're going to be talking to each other and communicating and working together, so we'll have to see what's going to end up playing out in this last lap and a bit. But you can certainly don't count out any of these top sixes. Contact behind between Postlethwaite and Russell.
Yeah, just a little bit, and Ben Snell has forced his way into that battle himself. In sixth, trying to get a top 5 is Ben Snell. He's a previous race winner here in the Pro Truck Showdown, and he's had many a battle with the likes of Justin Howe and Brenton Hobson for those honours. But the honours have gone to Jordan Caruso and Jaden Russell so far tonight. Two drivers that we've not seen take race wins in championship events in the Pro Truck Showdown as of yet, but it looks to me like as Brenton Hobson continues to hold on to the lead, the reigning champion has gotten his night back on track. One more turn to go and we will have white flag.
Yeah, just one more turn to go and the white flag is going to be in the air, but that's also going to mean that they're going to start to run out of opportunities to get moves done, and it's also going to mean that Hobson's got a lot of work to do to hold on to this race win as he throws a very, very late block on Caruso to try and hold the race lead. He runs deep and wide as a result. Caruso is going to slot on by. Webster's going to try and stick his nose up the inside. Pozzie's going to look in there as well up the inside. It's going to be 3 positions nearly lost for Hobson in the space of one corner, and Hobson going to be side by side with Webster up. The S is nearly in the barrier in the process. Postlethwaite's going to look to the inside of Hobson and try and get on the tail of Cooper Webster. Here comes Jaden Russell as well to give Hobson a little bit of a push. They're going to be nearly 3 abreast on the way down towards the
careful, boys.
carousel, and they're all just about going to make it out the other side.
All right, here we go then. Final lap at Watkins Glen. Brenton Hobson wants to try and take this lead back from Jordan Caruso. Cooper Webster wants to get top honours for the first time tonight, but Caruso is having to think about the round win here. He has got it in his sights. He holds on versus Brenton Hobson up at the front. Jaden Russell and Glen Postlethwaite side by side. They don't want to come together because Ben Snell is right there to take advantage. Justin Howe and Mitchell McLeod could take advantage as well just behind them. There goes Ben Snell side by side with Jaden Russell as Caruso now has a gap. Hobbo is going to try and keep Webster behind here. Gives him just enough room around the outside into the right-hander. Side by side behind them between Snell and Russell. They come together on the exit, and there goes Cooper Webster up the inside of Brenton Hobson into the left-hander at the top of the hill. Can Hobson hold it round the outside? It looks like he can just get the throttle on, but that is an Altus 1-2 secured, I think. And Jordan Caruso, well, from the highs of race 1 to getting... Oh, goodness! Just behind them, there's been a huge crash. Round goes Mitchell McLeod. Gregory Favell in there as well. Ryan Jones tumbling over. Daniel Stevens on his roof as well. But there we go.
Oh, Hobson!
Hobson! He spun out of the final corner. We can't keep up with what's going on. Cooper Webster and Jordan Caruso. Oh, Caruso, your top 2 as well. Oh, goodness. What even happened there? What happened? I don't know.
I think Jay needs to queue up a replay of about 5 different situations that have happened there, because there's just been so much happened in the past, 20 seconds that we've barely been able to understand it ourselves.
Goodness me. Well, McLeod made contact with another truck coming into the final turn, and here's what happened to Hobson. He actually collected the end of the pit wall, and, he got on the throttle, but then Westbrook was like, well, hold on a minute, I've still got my line to run towards the start-finish, and ultimately he wasn't able to get to the line there. Poor Damien.
They left on his lid, rocking back and forth like a turtle there.
Oh no, that's a shame there for the number 73. Well, at the end of it all, that is how things run out. Jordan Caruso taking 2 wins and a second. We think that secures him the round win, with Cooper Webster coming home in second. The Altus Esports 1-2 that they had been looking for since locking out the front row in qualifying. Glen Postlethwaite makes it onto the podium for the first time tonight, with Jaden Russell coming home in 4th and Justin Howe completing the top 5. His best result of the night. He should be happy with that. Ben Snell finishes in 6th. And, well, behind them, thanks to the melee that happened out of the penultimate turn, Kai Turner and Dean Alessi put their MFR machines into the top 10, with Mitch McLeod coming home in 9th and Philip Howe rounding out the 10 there.
I'm not quite sure how Mitch managed to get 9th after barrel rolling over a few times, but Sam Schride's going to end up coming home 11th, Jackson 12th, 13th to Ryan Jones, Favell 14th, 15th to Westbrook Stevens, 16th, 17th to Blanche, Garwood 18th, 19th is where Hobson's going to end up in the end. Unfortunately, he's not going to be too happy with that, but then Leighton and the final finisher is going to be Trezise, who had to retire after that shunt early on.
Indeed. Brady Baldwin, Lucas Dickinson, and Joshua Walton not qualifying or starting any of the 3 races tonight. Well, I think we're going to go off for a very well-deserved rest here at SimSpeed TV after a simply action-packed night of racing here in the Pro Truck Showdown. I can't wait for the rest of this championship, because if it's as competitive as this over the remaining rounds of the season, we have got a proper title fight on our hands. Can Jordan Caruso hold on to those top honours? Can Cooper Webster get a round win or 2 in there? What can the synergy trio of Postlethwaite, Russell and Mr. Hobson do? Well, it remains to be seen. Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs, once again, big thanks to you guys for your contributions to and support of this series. I'm Reese Gardner, Cameron Dance alongside me, and Jay Kennedy on the cameras, making everything happen behind the scenes. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but we'll be seeing you next Tuesday for more Pro Truck Showdown action.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?